Dr. Vexthera's 4 tentacles writhed in synchronized frustration as she manipulated the holographic displays surrounding her workstation. For the past 3 standard galactic cycles, she had been reviewing the same impossible data, hoping each time that her translation algorithms had somehow malfunctioned. The reports from the Outer Rim Scouts grew more preposterous with each transmission. "This cannot be accurate," she muttered, her bioluminescent patches flickering in patterns that indicated deep scientific distress. The translator collar around her neck converted her native hydrosonic language into galactic standard, though it struggled with her emotional undertones. A bipedal carbon-based species that allegedly survives in temperature ranges from -40 to +60 degrees Celsius, without environmental suits. The research station's atmospheric processors hummed quietly in the background, maintaining the carefully controlled environment necessary for the dozen different species working aboard Research Station Omega-7. Each species required specific atmospheric compositions, temperature ranges, and gravitational settings, all precisely calibrated because biological systems were inherently fragile and highly specialized. The idea of a species that could adapt to multiple environments was fundamentally absurd. Dr. Mordak, her colleague from the Silicon Collective, resonated into the conversation. His crystalline body structure produced harmonic frequencies that his own translator converted to speech. "Vexthera, my analysis of the metabolic data suggests even more disturbing impossibilities. These humans allegedly consume ethanol, a cellular poison, for recreational purposes and exhibit increased social bonding behaviors while intoxicated." "That's not the worst part," chimed Dr. Kalathi, the Zephyrian xenobiologist whose gaseous form shimmered near the ceiling vents where the atmospheric mixture suited her species. "According to the field reports, they deliberately inject themselves with weakened pathogens to strengthen their immune systems. What kind of evolutionary madness would produce a species that voluntarily exposes itself to disease?" Vexthera's secondary pair of eyes swiveled to focus on a particularly ridiculous data cluster. "Look at this thermal regulation claim. The reports suggest they have millions of microscopic pores across their skin surface that secrete liquid coolant when overheated. Simultaneously, they can generate internal heat through involuntary muscle contractions when cold. No known species has developed such comprehensive environmental adaptation." The 3 scientists represented the pinnacle of galactic xenobiology. Between them, they had cataloged over 3,000 distinct life forms across 47 star systems. They had studied the methane-breathing Corvani who lived in gas-giant atmospheres, documented the radiation-feeding Plutoids who thrived in reactor cores, and spent decades analyzing the collective consciousness of the sectoid hive minds. Each species had evolved for specific environmental niches with clearly defined biological limitations. "The locomotion reports are equally preposterous," Mordak continued, his crystalline structure shifting through various harmonic frequencies as he processed the data. "They claim humans can run continuously for hours, covering distances that would require mechanical transport for most species. The energy expenditure alone should cause systemic failure." Kalathi's form darkened with what passed for amusement among her people. "My personal favorite impossibility is their alleged aquatic capabilities. Despite being primarily terrestrial, they can supposedly hold their breath for extended periods underwater, with some individuals capable of remaining submerged for over 10 minutes. They lack gills, specialized respiratory storage organs, or any of the adaptations we've observed in truly aquatic species. And then there's their sleep patterns," Vexthera added, her bioluminescent patches now strobing with agitation. "The data suggests they can function for days without rest during stress situations. Yet they also spend approximately 1/3 of their lives in an unconscious state called sleep. The energy expenditure calculations don't balance." The most disturbing aspect of the reports wasn't any single impossible trait. It was the cumulative picture they painted. According to the Outer Rim Scouts, humans had no specialized environmental requirements. They allegedly thrived in scorching deserts, frozen polar regions, high-altitude mountains with thin atmospheres, humid tropical jungles, and even constructed habitable environments in the vacuum of space. "The habitat diversity claims violate every principle of evolutionary specialization," Vexthera observed, her tentacles now moving in the complex patterns that indicated deep scientific contemplation. Species evolve to exploit specific ecological niches. Universal adaptability is a biological impossibility because the evolutionary pressures would be contradictory. Dr. Mordak's harmonic resonance shifted to what his species used to indicate profound concern. Perhaps most disturbing are the neurological reports. These humans allegedly possess advanced cognitive capabilities while maintaining high levels of individual aggression and territorial behavior. The combination should. The UES Endeavour approached Research Station Omega-7 with the calculated precision that characterized human engineering. Its sleek hull reflected the light of the binary star system, while its fusion drives hummed with barely contained stellar fire. Aboard the diplomatic vessel, Ambassador Michael Harrison stood before the observation deck's reinforced viewing port, watching the alien research station grow larger against the starfield. First formal scientific exchange between humanity and the Galactic Council, he murmured to himself, unconsciously performing the shoulder rolls and neck stretches that helped maintain circulation during long periods of stationary observation. His body's automatic maintenance routines operated without conscious thought, a biological efficiency that would soon astound the station's xenobiologists. Lieutenant Rebecca Torres, his aide and security liaison, approached with a data pad containing the final diplomatic briefings. Sir, the station's atmospheric composition has been adjusted to accommodate human physiology in the main meeting areas. Gravity is set at 0.8 standard, temperature at 20 degrees Celsius, with oxygen-nitrogen mix at Earth-normal ratios. Michael nodded, though he noticed his body had already begun adapting to the slightly different atmospheric pressure aboard the diplomatic vessel. His enhanced lung capacity, a product of years serving on colonies with varying atmospheric densities, adjusted automatically. Any special protocols I should be aware of? The lead xenobiologist, Dr. Vexthera, is Aquarian. For tentacle manipulation, dual visual systems, communicates through bioluminescent patterns as well as sonic frequencies. Her species evolved in high-pressure water environments, so our movement patterns might seem aggressive to her. Aggressive? Michael raised an eyebrow, a micro-expression that would later fascinate the alien observers. Human locomotion involves controlled falling and recovery, sir. Most galactic species move through continuous ground contact or environmental manipulation. Our bipedal gait pattern triggers predator recognition responses in many species. The docking procedure began with a series of precisely timed gravitational adjustments. The Endeavour's automated systems communicated with the station's docking controls through quantum-encrypted channels, while backup manual systems stood ready in case of emergency. Michael observed the process with the relaxed attention that humans applied to routine operations, unaware that his casual monitoring of. As the airlock sealed and atmospheric equalization commenced, Michael performed a final equipment check. His diplomatic uniform was designed for cross-species interaction. No sharp edges, muted colors, and fabric that wouldn't trigger sensory overload in species with enhanced visual or tactile perception. The only concession to human biology was the subtle environmental monitoring system woven into the fabric, designed to alert him to atmospheric changes that might require physiological adjustment. Remember, sir, Lieutenant Torres said as the airlock indicators shifted to green. They've been studying our biological data for weeks. Their preliminary reports suggest they consider our species theoretically impossible. Michael's laugh, a sound that would soon be analyzed by xenopsychologists across the galaxy, filled the airlock chamber. Impossible? Lieutenant, wait until they see what we consider normal human capabilities. The inner airlock hissed open, revealing a corridor designed for beings fundamentally different from humans. The architecture curved in organic patterns that suggested species more comfortable with fluid movement than rigid structure. Lighting came from bioluminescent panels that provided illumination across multiple spectrums, accommodating species with visual systems ranging from infrared to ultraviolet sensitivity. Michael stepped into the corridor with the measured gait of someone comfortable in artificial gravity. His enhanced vestibular system, evolved from millions of years of bipedal locomotion across varying terrain, automatically compensated for the station's slightly different gravitational field. Each step demonstrated the unconscious complexity of human motor control, thousands of micro-adjustments coordinating muscle groups, balance sensors, and proprioceptive feedback systems. The corridor stretched ahead for approximately 50 meters, lined with observation alcoves designed for different species' comfort requirements. Environmental controls hummed quietly, maintaining the delicate atmospheric balance necessary for multi-species habitation. For most galactic species, moving between different environmental zones required time for physiological adjustment or specialized equipment. Michael walked the corridor in less than 30 seconds, his respiratory system automatically adapting to the subtle atmospheric variations. His circulatory system maintained. Dr. Vexthera waited in the main docking bay, her 4 tentacles arranged in what her species considered a non-threatening posture. She had prepared extensively for this encounter, reviewing every available piece of data about human psychology and physiology. Yet seeing the approaching figure triggered instinctive responses she hadn't anticipated. The human moved with predatory grace, each step placed with precision, head moving in small scanning motions that suggested constant environmental awareness, eyes that seemed to track multiple points of interest simultaneously. His facial structure, with forward-facing eyes and exposed teeth, matched the evolutionary profile of an apex predator. Yet his approach carried no threat display, no territorial marking behaviors, no dominance signals. "Ambassador Harrison," she said, her translator working to convert her hydrosonic greeting into human-comprehensible frequencies. "Welcome to Research Station Omega-7. I am Dr. Vexthera, lead xenobiologist." Michael extended his hand in the traditional human greeting gesture, a behavior that Dr. Vexthera had studied but never witnessed in person. The movement was fluid, controlled, and somehow conveyed both strength and restraint. His grip, when she tentatively touched his hand with one tentacle, demonstrated the precise force control that would later prove to be another impossible human trait. "The pleasure is entirely ours, Doctor," Michael replied, his vocal patterns carrying emotional undertones that her translator struggled to categorize. "I understand you have questions about human biology. I'm here to provide whatever information might be helpful." "Indeed," Vexthera responded, her bioluminescent patches flickering with patterns that indicated scientific excitement mixed with apprehension. "Your species presents numerous anomalies that challenge our fundamental understanding of biological possibility. Perhaps we could begin with some preliminary observations." Michael's smile, that peculiar arrangement of facial muscles and dental display that somehow conveyed friendliness rather than threat, lit up his features. "Doctor, I'm looking forward to it. I think you'll find humans are full of surprises." As they moved toward the research section of the station, the medical bay of Research Station Omega-7 had undergone extensive reconfiguration in preparation for the human examination. What normally served as a sterile environment designed for the fragile physiologies of most galactic species had been transformed into something resembling a combination of laboratory and observatory. Banks of sensors lined the walls, each calibrated for different aspects of biological analysis, while holographic displays created a 3-dimensional workspace around the central examination platform. Dr. Vexthera, Dr. Mordak, and Kalathi positioned themselves at optimal distances for their respective sensory capabilities. Vexthera's 4 eyes could process multiple visual spectrums simultaneously, while her tentacles manipulated control interfaces with practiced precision. Mordak's crystalline structure resonated with harmonic frequencies that allowed him to analyze molecular compositions through sonic reflection. Kalathi's gaseous form could detect chemical signatures and electromagnetic fields that other species missed entirely. Ambassador Harrison reclined on the examination platform with a casualness that immediately disturbed all 3 scientists. Most species approached medical scanning with significant anxiety. The deep-level biological analysis required for xenological study triggered instinctive survival responses in virtually every known life form. Humans, apparently, treated invasive medical procedures as routine inconveniences. Fascinating, Mordak chimed, his crystalline body producing harmonic overtones that indicated profound amazement. His cardiovascular system is operating at what we would classify as severe hypertension for most species, yet all indicators suggest this is his resting state. Michael turned his head toward the crystalline scientist, a movement that required the coordination of dozens of muscle groups and demonstrated the remarkable flexibility of human cervical vertebrae. Is everything reading normally, Doctor? Normal. Kaladee's gaseous form swirled with agitation, her molecular density shifting to express disbelief. Ambassador, your circulatory system is pumping what amounts to a corrosive transport medium through organic tubing at pressures that would cause catastrophic failure in most biological structures. Your blood contains dissolved gases, metabolic waste products, immune system components, and nutrient solutions, all somehow coexisting without precipitating toxic reactions. The holographic displays showed Michael's cardiovascular system in real time, a complex network of arteries, veins, and capillaries that formed an almost impossibly efficient distribution system. The three scientists watched as his heart. Your skeletal structure presents even more disturbing anomalies, Vexthera added, her bioluminescent patches flickering in patterns that suggested scientific vertigo. These bones appear to be living calcium phosphate composites with internal matrices designed for stress distribution. The density readings suggest they could withstand impacts that would shatter most mineral structures, yet they're somehow lighter than equivalent-strength artificial materials. Michael flexed his fingers experimentally, watching the scientist's reactions with growing amusement. The simple gesture demonstrated the complex interaction between his muscular, skeletal, and nervous systems, hundreds of individual components working in perfect coordination to produce controlled movement. To the alien observers, it looked like watching a biological machine operate at impossible efficiency levels. The neurological readings are perhaps the most unsettling aspect, Mordak continued, his harmonic frequencies shifting to indicate deep concern. His brain tissue shows electrical activity patterns that suggest multiple parallel processing streams. He appears to be simultaneously monitoring his environment for potential threats, analyzing our conversation for social cues, maintaining autonomous life support functions, and engaging in what can only be described as creative speculation about our reactions. That's actually pretty accurate, Michael confirmed, his laugh causing all three scientists to retreat slightly. The sound waves produced by human laughter registered as potential threat vocalizations on their equipment. Human consciousness operates on multiple levels simultaneously. We call it multitasking. Kaladee's form had darkened to indicate what might have been existential dread. Ambassador, according to our analysis, your immune system is currently cataloging and preparing defensive responses to approximately 47,000 potential pathogens it has never encountered. It's as if your body is constantly preparing for biological warfare that hasn't happened yet. Well, Michael replied with characteristic human understatement, you can never be too prepared. The examination continued for another hour, revealing layer after layer of biological impossibilities. The scientists documented muscle fibers arranged in redundant patterns that provided backup systems for backup systems. They observed a respiratory system so efficient it could extract oxygen from atmospheric mixtures that would be toxic to most species. They recorded neural pathways that suggested information processing capabilities equivalent to advanced computer systems. Most disturbing of all was the realization that everything they were observing represented baseline human biology. Michael hadn't undergone genetic enhancement, cybernetic augmentation, or evolutionary acceleration. He was, by human standards, a perfectly ordinary middle-aged diplomat who spent most of his time in meetings and administrative duties. Dr. Vexthera, Michael said as the initial examination phase concluded, I hope this is providing useful data for your research, Ambassador, she replied, her tentacles trembling with scientific shock. What we're documenting here challenges every fundamental principle we thought we understood about biological limitations. Your species appears to have evolved solutions to problems that most life forms consider insurmountable. And this is just the preliminary scan, added Dr. Mordak, his crystalline structure producing frequencies that suggested barely contained excitement mixed with professional terror. We haven't even begun the deep tissue analysis or stress response testing. Michael's smile, that peculiar human expression that somehow managed to be both reassuring and slightly predatory, widened. Doctors, I think you're going to find that humans are even more interesting than your initial data suggested. The three scientists exchanged the equivalent of worried glances across their respective communication modalities. They had requested this examination to disprove the impossible reports about human biology. Instead, they were discovering that the reports had actually underestimated the extent to which humans violated the known laws of biological evolution. The deep examination would begin the following day, and with it, the complete restructuring of galactic xenobiology textbooks. Perhaps, Dr. Vexthera suggested with the careful tone of a scientist approaching dangerous territory, you could demonstrate some of these alleged capabilities? Under controlled conditions, of course. Michael exchanged glances with Lieutenant Torres, who had been observing from the corner of the medical bay. She shrugged almost imperceptibly. They had expected this request. What did you have in mind, Doctor? Mordak's crystalline structure chimed with excitement. The reports claim humans can function in extreme temperatures. Our thermal chamber can simulate environments from just above absolute zero to nearly 200 degrees Celsius. Within safe parameters for Ambassador Harrison, naturally, Kalathi added quickly, though her gaseous form was practically vibrating with scientific curiosity. 20 minutes later, Michael stood in the thermal chamber wearing only basic protective gear, far less than what any other known species would require. The three alien scientists watched through reinforced observation windows as the temperature began to drop. -20 Celsius, Vexthera announced, her tentacles trembling as she watched Michael's vital signs. Most species would be entering hypothermic shock. Michael jogged in place, his breath forming small clouds in the frigid air. This is actually pretty comfortable. Reminds me of winter training on Europa. -40, Mordak chimed in disbelief. His core temperature has dropped only 2 degrees. How is this possible? Through the intercom, Michael's voice came clearly. Human thermoregulation is pretty efficient. We can shiver to generate heat, restrict blood flow to extremities to preserve core temperature, and our body fat provides excellent insulation. Shall we try the other extreme? Kalathi suggested, her scientific objectivity warring with her growing amazement. The chamber temperature began to rise. 40 degrees Celsius. 50. 60. His cooling system is extraordinary, Vexthera whispered, watching as perspiration began to bead on Michael's skin. He's secreting liquid coolant through millions of microscopic pores. It's like he has a built-in climate control system. At 75 degrees Celsius, Michael finally signaled for them to stop. Getting a bit warm in here, he said with characteristic human understatement. The three scientists stared at their instruments in stunned silence. They had just witnessed a biological... The quantum resonance scanner represented the pinnacle of galactic medical technology. A device so sophisticated that its operation required the combined expertise of 3 different species' scientific traditions. The massive apparatus filled an entire laboratory wing, its crystalline matrices humming with barely contained energy fields that could map biological structures down to the subatomic level. Most species considered deep quantum scanning to be invasive, potentially dangerous, and psychologically traumatic. Dr. Vexthera made the decision that would fundamentally alter her understanding of biological possibility. Ambassador Harrison, would you consent to a complete quantum biological analysis? This scan will map every cellular structure, every molecular process, every quantum-level interaction within your biological matrix. Michael glanced at Lieutenant Torres, who had been monitoring the proceedings with growing amazement at her species' casual violation of galactic biological norms. Their pre-mission briefings had covered this possibility, the likelihood that alien scientists would request increasingly invasive examinations as human capabilities defied their theoretical frameworks. Of course, Doctor, Michael agreed, settling into the scanning apparatus as if it were a comfortable reclining chair. In the interest of scientific understanding and diplomatic relations, the scanning chamber sealed around him with the precision of advanced engineering, while monitoring systems throughout the laboratory activated to record what the assembled scientists hoped would finally provide explanations for the impossible creature they were studying. Dr. Mordak's crystalline structure resonated with harmonic frequencies that indicated profound scientific anticipation mixed with existential dread. The scan will require approximately 6 hours for complete analysis, Vexthera explained, her tentacles manipulating control interfaces with nervous precision. Most species require full sedation for quantum-level biological mapping due to the invasive nature of the quantum field interactions. I'll be fine, Michael assured her, his voice carrying the casual confidence that had characterized all his interactions with supposedly dangerous or impossible situations. I brought some reading material. What the scan revealed over the following hours systematically destroyed every principle of evolutionary biology that the galactic scientific community had established over millennia of research. His immune system. The holographic displays showed Michael's immune system in operation. A vast network of specialized cells, chemical messengers, and adaptive responses that operated like a military organization perpetually preparing for biological warfare. White blood cells patrolled his circulatory system like security forces, while specialized memory cells maintained detailed records of every pathogenic encounter in his species' evolutionary history. The muscular system demonstrates redundancies that violate every principle of evolutionary efficiency, Dr. Kalathi observed, her gaseous form swirling with patterns that indicated scientific vertigo. Multiple muscle groups capable of compensating for the complete failure of primary systems. It's as if his body was designed by engineers who assumed catastrophic damage was inevitable. The scan revealed layers of biological backup systems that seemed almost artificially designed. Skeletal muscles arranged in overlapping networks that could redistribute stress loads instantaneously. Cardiovascular pathways with multiple routing options that could maintain circulation even with severe trauma. Neural networks with distributed processing capabilities that could function despite significant brain damage. Look at the cellular regeneration data, whispered Dr. Yethmora, her reptilian scales shifting to patterns that indicated profound unease. His cells are continuously replacing themselves at rates that should constitute accelerated aging, yet the quantum analysis shows that each replacement generation is optimized beyond the previous iteration. The most disturbing revelation emerged from the neurological quantum mapping. Michael's brain showed activity patterns that suggested simultaneous operation of multiple consciousness streams. Environmental threat assessment, social interaction analysis, autonomous system monitoring, creative problem solving, and memory consolidation all occurring in parallel processing networks. He's not thinking sequentially like most species, Dr. Vexthera announced, her bioluminescent patches strobing with scientific shock. His consciousness operates like a distributed computing network, with different cognitive processes running simultaneously across specialized neural regions. Dr. Zekthal, a crystalline entity from the scan, continued to reveal impossibilities. Digestive systems that could extract nutrients from virtually any organic compound while neutralizing toxins that would be lethal to most species. Respiratory mechanisms so efficient they could function in atmospheric compositions that barely qualified as breathable. circulatory systems that could maintain function across pressure differentials that would cause explosive decompression in other life forms. The metabolic efficiency readings, Dr. Mordak chimed with harmonic overtones suggesting scientific despair, indicate energy conversion rates approach. The implications would take decades to fully process, but one thing was immediately clear. Humans represented an evolutionary development that redefined what was possible for biological life forms, and somehow, impossibly, they seemed genuinely interested in using their capabilities to help others explore the universe together. The priority transmission reached the core worlds within hours of the quantum scan's completion, carrying data that would fundamentally alter the political landscape of the galaxy. Emergency protocols activated across 17 different star systems as the preliminary findings were distributed to the highest levels of galactic government. What had begun as a routine xenobiological examination had escalated into a civilization-level security assessment. Chancellor Vorthay K. of the Galactic Defense Coalition stood before the emergency assembly of the Inner Council, his forearms gesticulating with patterns that indicated profound strategic concern. Esteemed colleagues, we have received preliminary biological analysis of the species known as humans from Research Station Omega-7. The implications require immediate council consideration. The holographic displays activated, showing three-dimensional representations of human biological systems that defied every established principle of evolutionary development. Representatives from the galaxy's major civilizations studied the data with growing alarm, their various forms of anxiety creating a symphony of distress throughout the council chamber. Dr. Vextera's report, Chancellor Vorthay K. continued, indicates that humans possess biological capabilities that we previously considered theoretically impossible. They represent not just a new species, but a new classification of life entirely. Counselor Brex of the Silicon Collective resonated with harmonic frequencies that suggested deep philosophical disturbance. Chancellor, are we to understand that these humans pose a potential threat to galactic stability? The threat assessment is complex, the Chancellor replied, activating additional displays that showed comparative analysis between human capabilities and those of known galactic species. From a purely biological standpoint, humans appear to be optimized combat organisms. Their physical capabilities suggest evolutionary development specifically geared toward conquest and survival in hostile environments. Supreme Commander Zekmor of the Centaurian War Fleet, a species that had built their civilization around military excellence, spoke with the clicking vocalizations that indicated professional respect mixed with concern. The biological data suggests individual combat effectiveness approximately. This paradox had consumed the emergency session's previous 6 hours of debate. The biological evidence suggested that humans were apex predators evolved specifically for warfare and environmental domination. The behavioral evidence suggested they were genuinely interested in peaceful integration with galactic society. Perhaps most disturbing, Chancellor Vorthay K continued, is the realization that Ambassador Harrison represents baseline human biology. He has undergone no genetic enhancement, no cybernetic augmentation, no evolutionary acceleration. The capabilities we've documented are standard for his species. The implications rippled through the assembly like gravitational waves. If a single, unenhanced human possessed capabilities that exceeded their military specialists, what could an enhanced human accomplish? What could human military forces achieve if their diplomatic representatives were this formidable? The quantum scan revealed additional disturbing details. The Chancellor announced, activating new displays that showed molecular-level analysis of human biological systems. Their cellular structure demonstrates adaptive capabilities that suggest real-time evolutionary responses to environmental challenges. They don't just survive in hostile conditions, they improve. Counselor Prethay K of the Scientific Directorate spoke with the harmonic overtones his species used to indicate existential crisis. The biological efficiency readings approach theoretical thermodynamic limits. Their bodies operate like machines designed by civilizations with engineering capabilities far beyond. What does Dr. Vexthera recommend? Asked Counselor Yeth Prime. The Chancellor's expression, difficult to read across species barriers but unmistakably grave, dominated the holographic display. Dr. Vexthera's final report concludes that humans represent either the greatest threat to galactic civilization in recorded history, or the greatest opportunity for unprecedented cooperative advancement. The determining factor appears to be their genuine commitment to the peaceful intentions they claim. And if their peaceful intentions prove flexible? Supreme Commander Zekmore inquired. The silence that followed was filled with calculations no civilization wanted to make. If humans decided that cooperation was less beneficial than conquest, the galaxy possessed no known defensive capabilities that could stop them. Then, Chancellor Vorthay K replied with the gravity of someone contemplating civilizational extinction. We hope that their biological superiority is matched by the moral development they appear to demonstrate. The emergency session would conclude with a decision that acknowledged the new reality. Humanity had just redefined what was possible for biological evolution, and the galaxy's future now depended on whether their unprecedented capabilities would be directed toward cooperation or conquest. The next phase of human galactic relations would determine which possibility became reality. The Grand Assembly Chamber of the Galactic Council had never hosted such a diverse gathering of species in its 3,000-year history. Representatives from over 200 civilizations filled the vast spherical space, their various atmospheric requirements maintained by sophisticated environmental systems that created localized habitat zones throughout the chamber. The air itself seemed to vibrate with tension as beings who rarely left their homeworlds gathered to confront an unprecedented challenge to their understanding of biological possibility. Ambassador Michael Harrison stood at the center of the assembly, surrounded by a transparent observation sphere that allowed every representative to study him through their species' preferred sensory modalities. He appeared remarkably calm for someone who had just been revealed as a member of what many considered the most potentially dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered. Chancellor Vorthe K. of the Galactic Defense Coalition activated the chamber's universal translation systems, his forearms moving in ceremonial patterns that indicated the gravity of the proceedings. Ambassador Harrison, this emergency session has been convened to address the unprecedented nature of your species' biological capabilities, as documented by our scientific community. The holographic displays activated throughout the chamber, showing the comprehensive data that Dr. Vexthera's team had compiled over the previous weeks. Representatives from dozens of species studied the impossible readings with expressions that transcended cultural boundaries. Universal recognition that they were witnessing something that challenged their fundamental understanding of life itself. We have confirmed, the Chancellor continued, that humans possess biological capabilities that we previously considered theoretically impossible. Your species demonstrates optimization across multiple environmental parameters simultaneously, suggesting evolutionary development that defies our established principles of natural selection. Michael nodded respectfully, his hands clasped behind his back in the diplomatic posture he had perfected during decades of interspecies negotiations. Chancellor, I appreciate the thoroughness of your scientific analysis. I understand that our biology raises questions about our intentions within the galactic community. Indeed it does, interjected Supreme Commander Zekmore, his mandibles clicking with the rhythms that indicated military assessment protocols. From a strategic standpoint, your species appears to be evolved specifically for conquest. Individual combat effectiveness, environmental adaptability, technological aptitude, and psychological resilience all suggest a civilization optimized for expansion through superior force. A ripple of unease passed through the assembly as representatives processed the implications. Several species had built their civilizations around military excellence, yet their best warriors were apparently inferior to baseline human biology. Yet, Counselor Yeth Prime of the Diplomatic Corps observed, her reptilian features showing patterns of genuine puzzlement. Your behavior contradicts these biological indicators. You seek cooperation rather than domination, partnership rather than conquest. This paradox requires explanation. Michael's smile, that peculiar human expression that somehow managed to convey both confidence and friendliness, lit up his features as he addressed the assembled representatives. Counselors, I believe you're operating under a fundamental misunderstanding about the relationship between capability and intention. He paused, allowing his words to be processed by the translation systems and giving the diverse audience time to focus their various sensory organs on his response. Yes, humans are resilient. Yes, we've evolved capabilities that allow us to survive in harsh environments and overcome significant challenges. But the most important thing we've learned throughout our evolutionary history is that survival isn't just about individual strength. It's about community cooperation. Dr. Vexthera, who had been granted special permission to observe the proceedings, felt her tentacles writhe with scientific curiosity as she watched Michael address concerns that had kept galactic leaders awake for days. We survived not because we could outfight or outlast every challenge, Michael continued, his voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber despite speaking at conversational volume. We survived because we learned to help each other, to share resources, to combine our individual strengths into collective capabilities that were greater than the sum of their parts. But surely, Counselor Brexth of the Silicon Collective resonated with harmonic frequencies indicating skepticism. Species with such overwhelming individual capabilities would naturally tend toward domination behaviors. Michael's expression grew thoughtful, and when he spoke again, his words would be quoted in galactic diplomatic texts for centuries to come. Counselor, that's exactly backwards. Species that depend on domination for survival develop limited capabilities because they only need to be. The silence that followed was not the silence of confusion, but of dawning comprehension. Think about it. Michael continued, beginning to pace within his observation sphere with the fluid movement that still fascinated alien observers. If humans were purely conquest-oriented, we would have developed specialized military capabilities at the expense of other traits. Instead, we developed comprehensive adaptability because our survival strategy was based on helping each other thrive in any environment we encountered. Your biological perfection, Dr. Vexthera spoke from her observation platform, as representatives filed out to contact their governments with news of the new galactic reality. Dr. Vexthera realized that her team had discovered something far more significant than biological impossibility. They had found evidence that evolution could produce not just survival but wisdom, and that sometimes the most powerful capabilities emerged not from the drive to dominate, but from the commitment to help others flourish. The galaxy would never be the same, but for the first time in millennia, its future looked brighter than anyone had dared to imagine.